Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Championship Check-In podcast. And boy, have we got a lot to talk about. I'm here as ever with EFL pundit extraordinaire, Sam Parkin. And we have the whole Easter weekend to talk about, Sam. Obviously, I did the mini show on Saturday. So we've got some sense of what's gone on Good Friday, but we haven't heard from you yet. Loads and loads of football. How's your brain after that weekend?
Yeah, a bit scrambled. I suppose it's having that piece to just say you're not going to remember everything, and there's going to be a little bit of a blur at certain points, probably when we're discussing it today. But it's about probably the whole picture, I suppose, that's been moving rather than the individual performances and game plans and stuff like that. So no, I loved it. I think I enjoyed the staggered nature of the top three's games. I suppose it gave them all the same recovery time, didn't it? Having
That's true, yeah.
Leicester play the early kickoff both days, for example. But by 8 o'clock, I'm a little bit done, to be honest. And obviously, it's quite nice to switch off. I'd worked on 5 Live from kind of 2 till 5:30 both days, so across the 3 p.m s. So I had it in my armoury to sit on the train and watch the 5:30 game. But by 8, I was a little bit done. So well done, Leeds, on your 4 points. That's all I'm going to give you today, because I didn't watch it all in its entirety. I was done by then.
Right, we can't possibly go over 24 results. So a quick little summary before we go to Parkin's pick. So top 4, Ipswich won both against Blackburn and Southampton. Leeds, as you've just mentioned, Sam, draw at Watford, win at Hull, also win at home to Hull, 4 points. Leicester started with defeat, but good bounce back. So defeat to Bristol City, win against Norwich, 3 points for them. Southampton, draw against Borough, and then defeat against Ipswich. So just the 1 point for Saints in the playoffs. Not a lot changed, Sam. Double draw for West Brom. They took 2 points. Norwich, Coventry, and Preston all 1-1, lost 1. So nothing changed between those three. They all got 3 points. The gap stayed the same. Borough had the best round, but they only got 4 points. They really needed 6 to kind of ram that advantage home. Hull, 0, eek. Down at the bottom, take about QPR. I'm sure Sam is going to be very pleased to talk about that later in the show. 6 points. Take about Stoke as well, 4. Very impressive. But Blackburn, Rotherham, and Birmingham all got 3 points across the week. So a bad double round for Millwall, Huddersfield, and Sheffield Wednesday got 1 point. And a very bad round, as we're going to get into, for Plymouth, Argyle, with the 0 at the worst possible time. And we have another managerial change to talk about. So process all of that, Sam, and we will go to Parkin's pick. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I suppose the obvious thing would be to go for one of the top 3 teams, or one of the performances of the weekend, or one of those teams that have got maximum points. But what about a little focus on Southampton? And shall we consider if their automatic race is run?
Well, hopefully you're going to tell us. Definitely the big losers, weren't they? A last-minute equaliser from Emmanuel Latté-Laf in the first game. And I was kind of a little bit, Sam, well, okay, if they go and beat Ipswich, that doesn't matter. You know, go and win the head-to-head and bring yourself back and take points off a direct rival. But I think it's the manner of the defeat as well against Ipswich, where, frankly, they could have been 4-1 up with the chances they had at 2-1 in that game. And then not only to not win the game, but to then lose in the 97th minute, Sam. So the gap is 11 points up to Leicester with 1 game in hand. It is then 12 points to Leeds, 13 up to Ipswich. They've got 7 games, Sam, in 21 days. Feels like they've got to win all 7, doesn't it?
Does a little bit. And I think Russell Martin said that after the game. Don't call me crazy, but the next 4, when you look at those fixtures, they could win the next 4.
There's 3 at home, right? Let me bring them up, Sam, so you can flesh that point out. And we're not by any means, that doesn't equal 7 wins, but I agree with Sam, actually. Yeah, sorry, pick the bones out of that.
Yeah, I just think like the way that Russell Martin's talking, you've got to shorten it, haven't you? You can't look at probably the 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 games and say, right, we're going to categorically win all those games, blah, 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 blah. There's Leeds as well, isn't there, on the final day that I can't quite see there as well. So there's 8 to go, isn't there? But I just think the next 4, conceivably, they could win. And they've, I think, won 4 on the bounce twice already this season, obviously during that brilliant run. So you never know. But I mean, to come from here, like I said, the last time we met up would be just an incredible story. I thought they played some really good stuff. Obviously, at Ipswich, they controlled a lot
Can
of
I
that
say
game.
something quickly? As an Ipswich fan, Leeds blew Ipswich away for 20 minutes and scored 3 goals at Portman Road with good value for the win. Leicester, for about 20 minutes, were all over Ipswich. The longest sustained period Ipswich have been dominated for at Portman Road this season was in that game between about the 20th minute and the 60th minute. They were really good.
Yeah, and it's a credit to Ipswich to being able to overcome those spells when they don't see a lot of the ball, and a team's very much confident and in the ascendancy. So, yeah, huge credit to them. No surprise, really. Southampton have got really good players. Yeah, kind of Aribo was a bit of a bit part player early part of the season, but I thought this was probably his best performance, one of his best performances. Thought he was a big reason for that control in the first half. And again, obviously, Adam Armstrong playing before this season what would have been an unfamiliar role wide on the right-hand side. You know, why is your best goal scorer effectively playing wide on the right? But it really seems to work, him kind of running in towards
goal contributions, Sam, I think now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's gone a little bit under the radar as well. Maybe because they're not in the automatic positions. Everyone hasn't been talking about what an outstanding season he's had. But yeah, they showed their quality in this game, unquestionably. I just think mentally, the way they concede goals as well, that fragility there, it's just very unlikely they're going to be able to go and achieve what on the face of it looks pretty impossible. But yeah, those next 4 games on paper, old cliche, nothing's played on old paper, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went on a little mini run again now and possibly got 12 points out of those 4 games, which sounds incredible. But I just think it's going to be too tough a task to get anywhere near it now, in truth.
Surely, Sam, I listened to you and you convinced me about the first 4 games, but surely it's 3 back-to-back 3. It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. Surely that's the killer. You can do a 7-game win streak, sure, but surely not with that schedule and a trip to Leicester in there as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I suppose as well, he will want to keep them with the foot on the gas, though, because if there's any opportunity that they could finish 3rd, you know, so when you think about the potential to make wholesale changes, give younger players an opportunity, if they're obviously assured to be in the playoffs, then invariably managers got that option to make wholesale changes, to rest a few players. But I think, you know, if they can get a good return from that next 4 games, inevitably, I think things are going to change the picture between the top 3. So one of those teams could start sliding a little bit if the reality of automatic promotion has maybe gone. So Southampton want to keep the foot on the gas to try and finish 3rd, because, you know, you're going to want to avoid playing West Brom, aren't you? You're going to want to play the team that finishes 6th at the moment, clearly, because there's not a standout contender. So I think that maybe comes into play as well. Couple of other things I noticed. I suppose Kyle Walker-Peters' admission is worth raising. That was a little bit odd when you consider, you know, certainly
when you consider the right back got a red card as well.
Yeah, I thought that was. People will throw the rule book at me here, but I think people will say that Leif Davis was still going to get his effort away, even though there was a covering defender. I think that's where the kind of argument lies. But I still thought it was a really harsh red. But yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, especially when you consider the profile of Stevens playing on the opposite side. Ross Stewart maybe back for the playoffs, back for the tail end of the season. Bit of a shout, but that would be an extra bit of narrative as well come the end of the season.
It would indeed, but for now, and we're allowed to change our minds, and we will if they do win the next 4 games, it does look like Southampton are possibly out of the automatic promotion race. Bit of a bumper week for Worldie of the Week, actually. I'm quite looking forward to this. Let's get into it. Sam, I took the liberty of naming Jimmy Dunn the Worldie of the Week for Good Friday. And I've got about 9 goals here for you on Easter Monday. Let me tell you the ones I like, and you can give me your professional eye and choose the winner, okay?
Yep, go on then.
So I like Mavadidi squeezing home with the right foot for Leicester against Norwich. Ellis Sims finished a really lovely team move for Coventry. Rivan for Rotherham, nice left foot bouncer from distance. Radulovic for Huddersfield, great control finish. Ki-Jana Hoever in the same game, although you're going to not like the defending from our mate Sorba Thomas on that one. Tyrese Dolan, look at the replay on that one. Absolute filth. He spins left foot and then he's facing horizontal to the goal. And pokes it in with the outside of his right foot. Brilliant goal. Steve Cook, are we allowed 2 QPRs in a row? Right foot volley, not quite Van Basten, but he stuck his foot through that. Darnell Furlong for West Brom, long ranger. Adam Armstrong mainly for the Stuart Armstrong assist to take out the Ipswich defence. And Dan James, you've got, I don't care where the goalie is, you've got to love a goal from the halfway line, haven't you? So loads to choose from. I think I'm on Tyrese Dolan for Blackburn, but what is your take, Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to play tactically here, I think, because there's certainly one individual that we're going to talk about later who I'm not going to give the accolade to here. Jimmy Dunn's was the best goal of the weekend, clearly, but Steve
He's
Cook's
already had his flowers.
Yeah, Steve Cook's was a really well-controlled one. I've said it on various platforms, but how Steve Cook got awarded his goal against Birmingham, I don't know, because from the camera angle, the first one, it's going about 5 yards wide. So he's done well to have his name attached to that one. Great volley. I'm going to disagree with you. As good as Dolan's was, because as well he got a couple over the Easter period, I'm going to go for Hoever at Stoke City. I think that was probably my pick. I like Radulovic from the same game as well. That was a lovely goal.
Yeah.
But I think, and I like the celebration. You can't not like someone who's in tears during a relegation battle. That's good stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go for Hoever, because he got his two in two, one with either foot, and this one with his left was sumptuous.
I love it. A mention for Ki-Jana Hoever. I think he was on loan from Wolves to Stoke, and he had some good numbers at the back end on loan there last season, didn't he? So let us know your Worldie of the Week. Don't just vote for a player from the team you support. It gets really, really boring if you do that. But Sam's pick is Ki-Jana Hoever. Mine is Tyrese Dolan. Let's see yours in the comment. Sam, we're going off to the southwest for our meltdown moment. Okay, we spent the whole season and we always hold up Plymouth as this example of this beautifully well-run club who's come up 2 promotions in the last few years. We've seen Ipswich's financial results this week from last year in League One. So their promotion got even better, in my opinion, this week. Their League One title last year. But they're in all kinds of trouble now, Sam. I had them staying up, and a lot of Plymouth fans went, "Oh, Ben, I know you kind of like the story, but we don't agree with you with where this is going." Now, Ian Foster has gone with 6 games, and part of me thinks this is crazy because you shouldn't sack your manager with 6 games to go. Is that going to upset the apple cart? But if he's the wrong guy, then it's probably the right thing to do. But whichever way round, whether it's brave, stupid, both, they have to do something, don't they, Sam? And they're banging trouble. What is your take on the whole picture at Argyle, especially changing a manager 6 games out?
Yeah, I suppose a big factor is when the atmosphere in the stadium and amongst the supporters has turned to an extent where it's probably affecting the players, and I think that's where we got to. And I don't like, there was a bit of it with Mick Beale earlier on in the season, Ben, and I remember us discussing it then. I don't like character assassinating. That's not our job, and I think to a degree that's become too much of a part of football. Supporters picking on managers' mannerisms and what they're like on the touchline and what they're like post-match. It's a high-pressured situation, and absolutely, I probably didn't agree with some of the manager's comments after games and some of his mannerisms and stuff like that. But essentially, I don't think you can be too hard on someone when you've never done the job yourself, I think is in essence what I'm trying to say. But the performances have not been good. It sounded like at Carrow Road they actually started the game really well, and again against Bristol City. So these two games could have gone differently, and we could have been talking really differently about Plymouth Argyle this morning. Obviously, when they scored earlier at Carrow Road, I was thinking, oh, my prediction is absolute nonsense. And then they conceded the 2 set pieces and obviously lost against Bristol City. But it feels like the toxicity got too strong within the supporters. And I think the change is probably the right decision. I'm surprised the way they've gone.
So it's
I am
Juicenip,
surprised.
who is the director of football, right?
Yeah, and I think he worked in the England setup somewhere along the line. So at the FA, sorry. So I think he was aware of Ian Foster. It's clear that he probably recommended him or made the appointment or was certainly involved in that appointment. So it's an interesting scenario that's played out. I saw them at Southampton when he was in interim charge, and I saw them when they actually played quite a defensive kind of game plan. But if you look at the results of what around that night at St Mary's, there was 2 3-3s, there was a 2-2. It was more akin to what they've been under Stephen Schumacher. So it's probably with obviously an eye on that to make them more free scoring, make them more attack minded. But obviously the hierarchy will feel that this is a better opportunity of garnering points, which is the only thing that matters at the moment. And it's 2 voices the players are familiar with. Maybe they didn't fully agree or have slightly different ideologies about how the game should be played in comparison to Ian Foster, who has been a little bit more conservative. I think that's fair. And in the statement that they've released today, Plymouth, they spoke of him being backed and being given the opportunity to bring a couple of coaches in and been backed in the transfer market in January, where they did recruit 3 or 4 players. And clearly they haven't worked. And I think that's a big ingredient here. The lack of creative players that were brought in. And obviously the loss of Finn Azaz, I think, is massive. If you're talking about one of your 3 best players, your greatest sources of creation and goal scoring from midfield, that affects any team on top of losing the manager. So I think there's been, a lot of things going on at that club. And you talk about chaos, don't you? And when you were discussing relegation candidates, and I wouldn't put Argyle in that category because clearly it's really well run and they lost their manager because he's been good to Stoke City. But I think that losing him and losing the Zaz has definitely left them in this predicament.
And can I just throw in, I agree with all of your mitigating factors. The other one is this weird relegation battle we've had where teams have knocked out 3 and 4 wins in 4 games, and Plymouth have been the one who've sort of just hovered. I think I looked, someone will correct me in the chat, no doubt. I think it's something like 12 points from 14 games or something for Foster. So, yeah, we're looking at a point per game as a decent stand. He's just under it, but I think as well in the wrong time, wrong place situation.
I think I read that maybe his points per game away from home was better than Schumacher this season.
Right.
And they have churned out a couple of wins. Swansea, Middlesbrough,
Yep.
I think, are the
Yeah.
two that spring to mind. And
Sam, after they beat Middlesbrough, I think they got to 40 points, and I was like, "Oh, Plymouth are safe."
because no one would expect them to go a run of 5 games at home without scoring. You think even
Right.
against
Yeah.
the best teams in the division, they'd score goals and put up a fight. So I think that's a big reason as to why they felt they had to act. Preston they lost to at home, right? And then obviously Bristol City, which are 2 games on the face of it where you would have bet your bottom dollar that Argyle would have got at least a point from one of those 2 games. So when that has happened and played out, I think that gets too strong. Add to that the moans and groans, the stick that he's been getting, rightly so. The results have been really poor. I think that's the opportune moment for a board to act, and they have.
And also, Sam, it's an opportune moment before you go and play Rotherham, who are pretty much nailed on to finish bottom. So it's Rotherham. We'll just look at the 3-game week. Rotherham away, QPR at home, which is becoming more and more difficult. And then, for God's sake, look at that, Leicester. So you'll tell me no, football is much longer term than this, but surely they've targeted that Rotherham game for a 3-pointer and a quick bump, haven't they?
Yeah, but I've no idea what type of game that's going to be. I've no idea what kind of Rotherham turn up. Probably a Rotherham, the old cliche, but they'll just play with freedom. He can pick whatever team he likes. They're gone, aren't they? I said on Saturday, they'll enjoy that victory. I'm sure that dressing room was quite a bubbly place because the reality is, the players will know that they're going to be playing in League One next season. And then it was Lee Catamar was alongside at the weekend, and I spoke about some of those games against teams whose fate is already sealed could be the hardest games because they don't care. I've played in games against teams that are 12th and you get beat 3 or 4-0 because they just try things. There's no pressure. It's like a carnival. They're all booking their holidays. And yeah, Rotherham mathematically aren't quite down yet, but I have no idea what that game will be. I have no idea. I had no idea. I think it'd probably be a difficult game for Argyle for those reasons.
Very, very interesting. Get your thoughts in. We'll definitely clip that one out, and hopefully we can hear from the Plymouth fans. My sense is that they thought they were gone without doing this, and it kind of had to be done. But let us know what you think in the comments. Plymouth make a managerial change late in the day, and we are going to our cause for concern. But I've got to say it, Sam. You and I, in the comments this year, seem to have had the most grief from Hull City fans. And you're probably not going to enjoy who we've selected for cause for concern. And I respect anybody's right to an opinion, Sam, but we seem to have posted Hull, I think quite reasonably, as a side who at their best look really decent and really well coached, who have some really good players, who have recruited quite ambitiously, but aren't quite the level of a playoff team. I think that's a fairly reasonable take that we've had, and we've had a fair amount of pushback from Hull fans saying that's unreasonable. The table would seem to agree with us. We'll welcome the Hull fans' comments, but this is 6 without a win now after the 4 draws. Back-to-back defeats. Only Hull and Plymouth got 0 points over the Easter weekend. Yes, one of the games was away at Leeds, which is an incredibly hard game. We get that. But the one at home to Stoke is a really, really poor result. So for that reason, Hull are our cause for concern. They dropped from 7th to 10th. They're still very much in the playoff picture, Sam, but treading carefully to not upset them, their Tigers fans. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, even if they win that game in hand, they'd still be, 3 points inferior to Norwich. So it's looking like it's going to take an incredible effort. That said, I think the fixtures actually look quite kind. When I looked earlier today, maybe it'd be an idea to get them up. And talking about this in the aftermath of a game where, for all intents and purposes, they played really well and they controlled large portions of it, but it's just in that final third, I think I'm a little bit, I suppose I'm a little bit disappointed in the attacking output. Certainly the chance creation in the last couple of games, that little bit when you got the necessity to speed it up in the final third and make something happen. Maybe we've not seen probably enough from those outstanding forward players that they've accumulated. I think Rossini's done a really good job. Rewind to the start of the season, before all the signings, granted, I thought this could be a season of struggle. They were kind of my little wild. Actually, yeah. They were kind of my wild card to maybe be teetering on the brink. So I think Rossini, for having quite a large portion of players from previous regimes and fitting them into his side and improving them, you know, the likes of Coyle and Slater and others. Seri was there, wasn't he? I could go on. You know, the basis of the back 4-5 has been what's been at the club previously. So I think he's improved the players whilst changing the style, which, you know, invariably players are going to fall by the wayside and not be good enough, but he's been able to get a tune out of them. So I think he deserves credit there, but not enough chances to go with the possession. And we saw it working the other day, you know, scoring a goal without maybe a recognised number 9. But I think in time for them to be a more rounded side, I think they need that permanent fixed striker maybe to make the next step. But yeah, it's not a disgrace by any stretch of the imagination where they're sitting. But I think I had them up in 8th position, didn't I? And yeah, I wouldn't change my sentiment now, but I think they'll probably do well to finish 8th now.
So looking at those fixtures you mentioned, you can just see 3 head-to-heads there: Cardiff, Middlesbrough, Coventry. That's a lot of teams around them. They've got QPR in there. Watford are just a little bit below. Huge game against Ipswich. And then you were talking about soft opponents. If Hull are still in 10th, Plymouth will probably fancy a home game against Hull in round 46. But what's it going to take for them to sort of usurp Norwich if we think it's only 6th that's open?
In terms of points?
Just in terms of, you know, kind of the sort of big picture.
Yeah, well, the run's good, isn't it? But I mean, the run of games is good, but I suppose the Achilles heel, which probably you'll be looking back at the end of the season, will be their inability to win home games. I think, is it 13 home games they've not won this season? I mean, it seems an awful lot. That's just a number I've just plucked from my brain.
No, but you're right. You're right. Yeah, so they've won 7 out of 20. Yeah.
So on the face of it, when you're looking at, there's 3 very winnable home games. They've not had the ability to go and
only Coventry have had more draws at home as well.
Make the most of home advantage. So it's not a given they're going to win those games. And I just think they're maybe going to fall short. But I think we saw loads that encapsulated what Liam Rossini has done as what has made them a much better side. And I thought at the full-time whistle against Leeds at the weekend, Daniel Parkin went and had a quiet word in Liam Rossini's ear, and it was something similar that Enzo Maresco had done about a month ago. And I would presume the sentiment is you're a really good side and you're a really promising young coach. And maybe that's a little bit patronising, but I think that shows you that they're doing a lot right there, and with the right business in the summer and the right change in the squad, they could be a force next year.
There you go. Get us your thoughts in on Hull, on where it's going right now, and as Sam mentions, where it could go long term. And, you know, are the playoff hopes dropping away, or can you see that favoured late run that everyone loves to talk about? Right, we are going to move ourselves. We're going to stop looking back. We're now going to look forward at the start. We just had the Easter doubleheader, the start of another 3-game week in the Championship. And Sam is going to pick out his mouthwatering matchup. Rotherham versus Plymouth is on Friday night on Sky. Norwich versus Ipswich is the early kickoff on Saturday. Blackburn versus Southampton. Cardiff versus Hull. Coventry versus Leeds, Huddersfield, Millwall. It's Leicester, Birmingham, Middlesbrough, Swansea, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, Stoke, West Brom, Sunderland, Bristol City, and Watford, Preston are your 12 fixtures. And with the 3-game week, we'll all be done. No Sunday games. Mr. Parkin, I'm going to click the button and you're going to talk to me about your mouth-watering matchup. Quick caveat before Sam says what I know he's going to say. I will be appearing on about 7,000 platforms this weekend, talking about a certain game this weekend. Sam used to play for one of said teams in certain games. So as much as there's one glaringly obvious candidate, we are going to swerve that and pick another one, Sam, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to go to QPR. Against Sheffield Wednesday, which a fortnight ago, I don't think there'd be any argument that this is going to be a colossal meeting. Now, with QPR looking a little bit safer, the importance is probably more for the away side in truth, but still a big game down there.
I totally agree with you, Sam. It was going to be like this massive head-to-head, wasn't it? And now it feels a little bit like very much in the way we had with Ipswich and Southampton, where if you can win the game, if you're QPR, you can almost tick off Sheffield Wednesday because you'd be putting a 10-point gap in with 5 games to go. And you're basically saying, you're not catching us. But Sam, after the heroics at the weekend, and I know I said this about Plymouth when they got to 40 points, QPR, 46 points, 40 games gone, 1 win and 1 draw would take them to 50, and they look very, very much safe. Sheffield Wednesday, on the other hand, who we've had trending up for the longest time, and the maths tell us, look at that. 1 point in their last 4, only 1 point over the Easter weekend. I totally agree. It feels like a much bigger game for Wednesday. Before we touch on Wednesday, can you just talk about QPR and Cifuentes? And he's got to be in the conversation for manager of the year, especially if they go up another place and end up sort of 15th, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, half a season maybe. I mean, I know he came in. Did he come in after 9 games? I can't quite recall. But yeah, I think Kieran McKenna will probably swoop those awards if they maintain what they're doing, or even if they were to, not make it automatically. But Cifuentes has been incredible. Yeah, and you saw it very, very quickly. I think, defensively they've become so difficult to breach. I think over the last 8 games, I think only Leeds and Ipswich have got more points. Don't quote me on that. I think there maybe is a couple that have got similar. I think it's 17, which is automatic promotion form, isn't it, really, over 8 games. So at this stage of the season, with so much on the line, their form has just been incredible. And listen, I'd be astonished. I'll go out and say it now. Clip this up. I'll be astonished. I really would if they were to get sucked back into real danger again, because they're playing well as well. They're not just, I know at Swansea they rode their luck a little bit. I saw a few people saying it was a little bit of a steal to take maximum points, but the performance level really across the last 10 dozen games has been excellent. So they'll be favourites again for this one, but the importance is greater for Sheffield Wednesday. And I do believe that, given that the spirit seems good at Sheffield Wednesday, the connection between supporters and manager, they could be a bit of a wounded animal here. It was one of the first times Danny Rolls actually called them out a little bit after that Middlesbrough defeat. They've had 2 poor showings on the bounce away from home, obviously thumped at Ipswich, the point against Swansea at home, which could have been better, and then they were abject at Middlesbrough, it sounded. So this is a test of their character, and it could be a defining game for them, I think. If they're to lose here, I quite fancy Huddersfield at home to Millwall for some reason, although having Millwall lost at Rotherham, I'm not sure if lightning will strike twice, but I think that's a decent game for Huddersfield. Be a big crowd, vociferous kind of relegation battle. And QPR have just got that little bit of light between them and Wednesday now. I noticed Poveda back on the bench. I noticed Bannon started. They were 2 kind of players that I flagged maybe in the last podcast as to a reason as to why I saw Sheffield Wednesday having maybe a difficult couple of weeks. With those 2 back available, Ugbo not scored in 5. Probably another
Interesting.
ingredient. Me and you were quite kind of buoyant about their chances of continuing to score, mainly because of him and Poveda. So with everyone back in, excuses can stop from me, and hopefully Sheffield Wednesday can rally again, because I've been big on Danny Roll. But yeah, this is a big one, and it's a test for QPR after such a glorious Easter. Can they go again in another high pressure game to just get the job effectively, as you said, pretty much finalised?
Fascinating one. You've teed it up really, really well. And it feels like, given the points accumulated over Easter, QPR kind of had the luxury, if they were to draw the game, move on to 47, things are okay. Sheffield Wednesday, and we'll see, because Plymouth could really ramp the pressure on if they can get a win at Rotherham on Friday night. It almost goes into the old cliche of must-win territory. So really, really looking forward to that one. Let me know your thoughts, especially Sheffield Wednesday fans, on that one. How are you seeing a huge relegation head-to-head this coming weekend? Let's move on. Player to watch. Is this the player who you wouldn't mention in Worldie of the Week territory then, Sam?
Yeah, there was a goal early part of the season I think we discussed, which drew a gasp from me off the sofa, and it was quite similar when this one in. To contradict myself, I did actually have Leeds Hull on at this point, so I was watching it when Dan James scampered down the right hand side. It is a scamper, but his scamper is quicker than everyone else's sprint. Because like any other player probably wouldn't have got to the ball. And when you saw it was him, I thought, oh, he's going to get there. And the keeper's on the halfway line. Brilliant, rubbing my hands together. But then the execution, because he's had to go essentially inside of the right foot, hasn't he? Kind of side foot curler to get the pace on it and the direction. Goes in lovely in the corner as well, doesn't it? I thought it was a brilliant goal. Brilliant goal. No right to score from there. Yeah, it's an empty goal, but I think 1 in 5 of those go in. So yeah, to execute it with everything on the line there was a brilliant little bit of technique. And again, I'd say a player that's been under the radar a little bit this year, probably because we spent so much time speaking about Somerville for one.
Somerville, yeah.
Yeah, probably Ruter as well, because he's done some amazing things. I noticed when I was just having a little look at this game earlier on, thought, I wonder how many times Dan James is getting on the ball and getting at people at the moment. How many dribbles is he having? He had 3 dribbles in this game. Ruter had 10 dribbles. So I looked a little bit deeper. Ruter has had 248 dribbles this season. Jack Clark's 232. And then there's no one in the 200s. So I mean, Ruter is just a bit of a run-off, isn't he, to digress.
But Sam, I know you're joking about it, but you've probably hit the nail on the head as to why, what the roles are there for the wingers. And it's probably getting in amongst it, isn't it? And Ruter is the guy that's the ball carrier.
Yeah, probably allow. He probably has to be allowed to do that by the manager, because he couldn't give the ball away. I mean, he had a bit of a wretched game, did he not, on Monday? Certainly towards the tail end of the commentary.
Mate, I was spent after Ipswich Southampton. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I think at the tail end of the commentary, like one of the commentator or the co-com actually said, "Oh, he's been really off it tonight." So I think you probably have to afford him that a little bit, because he just tries things, and he might lose the ball 5 times out of 6. On the 6th occasion, he might create a chance or get a shot away. But anyway, to digress, yeah, I just think Dan James is an interesting talking point, because he's banging form as well. He's got 3 in his last 5. Last 13 games, 6 goals and 3 assists. So 9 goal involvements in his last 13 games. And he only started 7 of those fixtures. So he's affecting things from the bench. He's affecting things from the start. And good on him in the aftermath of the penalty miss for Wales. Seeing him go out there, perform as he did, and getting a sumptuous goal. So I think Coventry away is probably their hardest fixture. And I think it's probably, it's nearly now or never, isn't it, for Coventry, or certainly need to keep their foot on the gas before the semi-final, and they play Leeds, then Southampton. So this is a crucial game for Coventry, especially after they got beat by Cardiff. So I expect them to be at it, to have a real go, to fans to probably recognise that if they're going to have a wonderful end to the season in the league as well as the cup, then they need their support this weekend. So I think this is probably as tough as it gets for Leeds. And I know we can probably put too much into the fixtures, but yeah, I think Leeds have got a relatively comfortable passage to the end of the season. Southampton on the final day, of course, but this is a biggie for them.
I spoke with Dan James. I saw him playing like 2018, and I was like ground level on the pitch as well, and I didn't know who he was, and he ran past me, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that guy's quick, And he's always been a bit of an enigma to me, because there was that thing with Bielsa where they had him up in Leeds and they couldn't get the deal done because of the Swansea ownership, and then he was kind of signed by Man United, and it felt like they just signed him to sign somebody without actually having a plan to use him. And then he goes to Leeds and he gets loaned back out to Fulham. And even this season, Nonto got the injury, didn't he, in international break. It even feels like this season it's had to kind of open up for him to, be in the team at this absolutely vital time. But I don't know, sometimes those stories where you think, oh, if Leeds go up, this guy will be the hero. But I don't know, something's telling me that it's kind of opening up for Dan James to have a really big end to the season.
Yeah, it feels like he needs nurtured a little bit, doesn't it? You need someone to put faith in him. It's almost as if, like, because of his pace, the flaws in his games get highlighted more. I think that can sometimes happen because his end product's sometimes going to be a little bit wayward. But I think that there is a consistency there with that. The numbers will tell you that. I think he has got more composure than some other speed merchants that I could probably roll off. So no, he's had a good end to the season, and I think he could be vitally important. I mean, if memory serves, during the Leeds United series, I can't remember what channel it was on. I think they had the footage of Dan James being up there for his medical, did they not?
Yeah.
Before he actually ended up going to
Amazon, wasn't it?
I think it was on Amazon, one of the first, wasn't it? And they had him up there, obviously late at night at Thorpe Arch, I think it's the training ground, and obviously that didn't go over the line, and subsequently they've had the relegation, and it's been difficult for him. So yeah, he seems like a good guy. So he could have a big part to play for Leeds in the remainder of the season.
He could, and we're gonna go. We've got one more segment. Sorry, I'm flapping because I know I have to go to the predictions. You must tune in for the predictions this week because the gloves are well and truly off. You're going to be staggered to know what happened over the international break and some of the abusive messages I've received from Sam Parkin on WhatsApp in the aftermath of this. So join us for the predictions. But first of all, we'll get our competitive juices flowing, Sam, with the week that was. So big thanks to our main man, Fev, Sam. Fev's Football Analytics at Fev's Football. I think I gave him about 3 minutes notice for the last recording over the Easter weekend. So we didn't have a question for that one. And that's on me. But we do this time, Sam. Would you like to ask first or would you like to answer first?
I'll ask you, mate, I think.
Okay, let me put my phone down.
So over Easter, there was 24 matches. Every team scored at least one goal. Mm-hmm. Nobody got shut out twice. But how many teams scored just the one goal? I just need the number of teams. That's all I'm looking for, not the teams themselves. How many teams scored just a solitary goal over Easter? Just need the number of teams.
So I think Plymouth is definitely one. Swansea scored. No one got shut out twice. Very few, I think. 4.
That is the correct answer. Sheffield Wednesday, Plymouth Argyle, Swansea, Hull City.
Okay. Gauntlet thrown down. I'm feeling more confident about facing up to my demons in the prediction show now. Right. Your question for Sam. Over the Easter set of 24 matches, every team scored at least one goal. Nobody got shut out twice. But how many teams scored 4 goals or more? So how many teams across the 2 games scored 4 goals or more?
4 goals or more. Oh, blimey. That's not as easy as it. 4, 1. Not many, he says. I can only think of one at the moment. Hang on. Give me a bit more time. What was their score? They did. Yeah, they did. No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Sorry.
I don't think there's many at all. It can't be as few as that. Who else is in the playoff mix?
How many teams scored more than 4 goals across the 2 rounds?
Did they?
Sorry, 4 goals or more, Sam. 4 goals or more.
I'm a bit frazzled now. I've been on the computer all morning. I can only think of 3 off the top of my head. So therefore, I'm going to go 4.
You're 1 out. It's 5.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not
I'll
bad.
take that. I'll take that.
Coventry, Watford,
yeah, add them. Yeah.
Ipswich, they all got 4. Blackburn and Leeds got 5. Blackburn got 5
I didn't have Blackburn. Yeah.
In one game. Your old mate Eusty got 5, and you forgot, Sam. Deary me.
I forgot.
Well, that's actually really good news. I think it was 17-13. Does that sound right? Or 17-12, and it's now 17-13. We'll get you the update. Sam is most definitely leading. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this latest episode of the Championship Check-In podcast. And if you want to see me squirm, come and join us for the predictions.